Hey, it's Kim. Thanks for stopping by today's video where I'm going to be discussing planning styles and how understanding your planning style will help you achieve maximum productivity. So you might be wondering, what is a planning style? How do I define it? How do I determine mine? We're going to talk through all of those things. But really, it's just an idea that I had, and it stems from that video that I put out not too long ago for how to start a planner. So the video was done in the hopes of explaining to new planners or people who are new to the planning community what to plan and how to plan. So that was the main point, but also wrapped up in there, I was discussing how it could be helpful for those intermediate and advanced planners. If we maybe realize that our systems aren't quite working, it kind of helps you to start from square one. So that was the main goal of that video. And after I wrapped that video, I actually did get a few questions about how to start planning, and it led me to start thinking about developing a series that talks a lot about how planning can be used for productivity and kind of just providing a roadmap of how to go about one's planning journey. Whether or not you're new, whether or not you need a fresh start, doesn't really matter. So today is the second topic in that series, and maybe I'll call it something like planning productivity. Planning productivity. I don't know. We'll see. You'll know it, I guess, by the time I put it into like a YouTube playlist, but that's what I'm thinking. So this is going to be the second topic in that series where we'll discuss planning styles and how they can help you maximize your productivity. So another main component that led me to the creation of this video is I tried to think back on all of the thoughts that run through my head when I'm trying to determine if I want to start a new planning system or if I want to switch my current system up. And there are quite a few questions or things that I run through in my own head, realizations that I have to, just be real about to determine how to move forward in my planning system. So I'll take you through all of those, or at least most of those. So my current system, if you're not aware, is pretty much a bullet journal type of system, but I do use planners that use inserts. I do have planners that use inserts. So my everyday carry, as well as my companion planner, as well as my work planner, they all require inserts because they are ring planners. So one thing that I do know, a major thing that I know about myself as it relates to the inserts for ring planners, is the fact that I am not going to print inserts on a monthly basis. I'm not printing inserts on a weekly basis. I'm not printing inserts on a quarterly basis. For me, focusing on printing inserts regularly takes the fun out of it. And I know that for many others, printing them regularly is part of the fun, or even, searching for a new insert is all part of the fun. But for whatever reason, it just doesn't compute with my brain, and that's something I will not do. I like to have the full year of inserts readily available for me, and full disclosure, okay? So even though I'll use the insert sometimes for about 4 months, then get bored and switch to something else, I do still print the full year of inserts. So it could be wasteful. I typically don't waste the paper. I just will use it as scratch paper. But I totally understand how that could be a turnoff. But for the most part, if there's an insert that I'm choosing, it's one that I'm pretty sure I'm going to use on a consistent basis. And like I said, I do a form of bullet journaling. And bullet journaling is you're basically doing your monthlies and your dailies and your weeklies as the time comes up. So there's not always a great way to future plan, but I know that for myself, even though I'm using this system, I have to have a solid structure for future planning. So that sometimes will be represented in my companion planner, or sometimes I'll use my phone, like the calendar on my phone, or within my bullet journal system, I do have a way to plan out things for future dates. And that's actually primarily why the cut down Hobonichi cousin is working very well for me, because I already have those layouts for the future months and the future weeks, should I need to write down something on a post-it and stick it right in there until that time comes. So I know that I absolutely must have a way to future plan. Also, this planner community, we are all about deco and we like things to be pretty, but I know that I do not change my deco often. So inside of my planners, whatever, you know, cute clips or paper clips or whatever else I'm using, it's gonna stay. I'm not swapping it out for the seasons. I'm not switching it monthly. I don't even really like to switch planner to planner, but it is something I'm kind of toying with lately. But I know that I won't change my deco often. So being in a system that requires that would not work for me. And on another note, as it relates to bullet journaling, the reason why bullet journaling actually works for me is because I like to set things up little by little. I like to maybe plan out for this week and then not worry about the next few weeks. And I know if you're not into planning or bullet journaling, it may sound odd that I'm discussing needing a place for future planning, but explaining that I won't set up future plans. But hear me out. I just know that in my planning journey, I like to set aside time in my day, time in my week to sit down with my planners and write everything out. So I won't do it all in one sitting for, say, the entire month of June. That just doesn't work for me. I like to have my planner time, which is also my creativity time, spaced out here and there throughout the month. So that means I may set up a week or two at a time. I typically won't set up a month too soon. I just want to make sure that I have something there for me to work on when I'm feeling in the mood to plan. So I'll need a system that allows me that space or that freedom for creativity. And a couple of items that are a little less specific that more so relate to, I guess, my personality as it relates to planners. I am always assessing, always analyzing to see if things could be better, if I could do it more efficiently, to see is this really working for myself. So I do have check-ins with myself every now and again just to make sure things are working. And that's because I'm okay with changing it up. There are some people who may not want to change. You want to stick to the same thing and you want it to flow and you want it to be easy, and that's perfectly fine. But for me, I'm okay with changing things up. So that's an important concept to understand as it relates to your own personal planning style. Also, one other thing that I noticed about myself is that I don't necessarily get bored. So like I said, I'll assess my planning system every now and again to see what's going on. I don't get bored. I might get frustrated if I feel things are not working as well as they should for me. So that's when I'll start looking around on Instagram, looking at other YouTubers who are in the planning space, looking to see what other people are doing so I can get a bit more inspiration. But that can also be dangerous when you're looking at what everybody else is doing and it's always so amazingly pretty. It always seems like it'll work better than your system. So that is why it's extremely important to understand your planning style. Understand what you will and will not do, what you will and will not tolerate. That will really allow you to not be so distracted by all of the pretty pictures and things that you see. It also opens up the door to allow you to customize or tailor those things that you see in the pictures in Instagram and YouTube, and just tailor it to your own system. It doesn't have to be exactly the way you see someone else using it, but you'll use it in a way that works according to your own planning style. All right, so actually defining planning styles is a little bit tricky. I would like to say, or I would like to think that there is a broad spectrum of planning styles, and there are two extremes of that spectrum. The first extreme, in my opinion, would be people who prefer form over function. So that's many of us who want it to be pretty. We want it to look nice. We want to be excited about opening our planners every time we do. So we prioritize the pretty. And sometimes at that extreme, it looks great, but it's doing absolutely nothing for your productivity. It's not helping you keep your life together. It is just a pretty planner. And then on the other end of the spectrum, there are those who prioritize function over form. So as long as it works, as long as it's helping you keep your life together, it doesn't have to be nice. It doesn't have to entice you. It doesn't have to encourage you to actually use it. It just has to work. And I'm pretty sure a lot of us will say that we are somewhere along that spectrum. And in life, I truly believe that depending on the season of life you are in, whether you have babies, whether your kids are in college, whether you yourself are a student, you really will shift and move along that spectrum in whatever way that serves your life best. So for instance, when I was in graduate school, I was absolutely function over form. 100%, hands down. It was pretty much just a running list. You know, same thing, I guess, when I had babies, and I actually had babies at the same time I was in graduate school. I just needed to get things done. I needed life to work. Didn't have to be pretty. Whereas when I had a lot more free time on my hands, and maybe I didn't have a lot to schedule, I just had a 9 to 5 and not much else going on, I then prioritized it being pretty. So I prioritized form over function. But coming from a space where I was able to functionally plan very well, I had the tools available to, even though this new planning system for me was extremely pretty and it focused on keeping me entertained and keeping me creative, I also knew how to slip those elements of function in there so that it would be useful for me. So this applies to all of us, no matter if you're starting out in your planning journey, no matter if you are very advanced and you've been doing this forever. You are somewhere along that spectrum, I truly, truly believe. And if you actually know where you might be or where you might land at this season in your life, leave a comment down below letting me know. So those are my tips on how understanding your planning style can help you with maximum productivity. Really knowing and being familiar with the productive side of yourself goes a long way in helping you to understand what's the best planning approach for you. Having a grasp of the things you will and will not do in your planning routine is extremely important, as well as understanding where you fall on that range or that spectrum of planning styles. This helps you hone in on the most productive version of yourself, and if that includes having a pretty planner, so be it. If that includes getting rid of too much of the fluff and the pretty, so be it. It's really about maximizing your own productivity in the planning style that works best for you. I truly hope these tips have been helpful for any of you, whether you are new to planning or you've been doing it for a very long time. And like I said, this is going to be a series. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to title it just yet, but if you have any ideas for topics that I can include in this series where we're focusing on how to use planners as a productivity tool, please feel free to leave them in the comments down below. You can also message me over on Instagram if that is what you're most comfortable with as well. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and I'll see you in the next one.